waters, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third part of the waters became wormwood.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Apologize for the study just never coming yesterday. I couldn't even get in to cancel it because we had a power outage, and I was also confined to our property because of the roads being blocked. Now, sometimes that might happen in the winter. We had very severe weather, lots of ice, and there were thousands of people without power, apparently. At least that's what they claimed. I don't doubt it, I'm just saying. Okay, so we're continuing with the third trumpet. And you'll recall earlier in the week I had said that I believe, well, I certainly think that there's a strong case to be made for taking a lot of what is in the trumpets as literal, at least to this extent. It's okay to speculate about oh, does this represent some past historical invasion of Rome or something like that? It's all right to take that perspective and look at it. But if there is, is there a downside to thinking they could be literal? Well, if you only think they could be literal, the downside is you might miss them. But honestly, if they are not in some sense literal, then you are almost certainly going to miss them, because because they are so general that it's sort of like you could apply it to anything. I mean, you could say the first angel sounded, there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. The war in Afghanistan. Yeah, and literally you could say, well, that's that. You could just say that. I mean, and I don't. And you say, well, it represents the the bullets and the fighting and the blood, and that's what it is. Okay, so I mean, literally, I have trouble seeing how you could not make it into anything. Honestly, in that case, the preterist view makes more sense, because at least you could look back and limit it, I guess, to great events that happened in the history of Rome. But I think the important thing, as I've always said, is to know what's in the prophecy. If you don't know the book of Revelation to some extent, if you saw hail and fire mingled with blood from the sky, you might not even think it could be a sign. There's a possibility that you could look at that, you could see a meteor come from the sky, and it have the effect that not just a meteor, but one that falls in the sea, and is followed by the effects you see with the darkening of the sun and the moon and the stars by a third, not completely blacked out. Well, if it's completely blacked out, then we have a bigger problem than a sign. But there are people walking around the world today that don't know what's in the book of Revelation, certainly. And they'll feel like it's the end of the world, but they're not going to know what to make of it, necessarily. And they're not necessarily going to look for the next sign, and the next sign, and the next sign. Because it is the fact that they follow in sequence like this, at least over some period of time. I believe a relatively short, I believe the apocalypse, the end of the world, is going to open with a bang. It's going to be like, boom, onset. It's just going to begin. You might be able to look back afterwards and say, oh, the signs were there. Everything was leading up to it. But I don't know how ahead of time you can say all the signs are leading up to it, because they've been talking about signs leading up to the end time since I was a kid. And even before that, they were at it. Do some digging and you could find apocalyptic literature going back hundreds of years where it's like, this is the year, I've got the charts, I've got the look at that. If you take the date from the siege of Constantinople, I'm just kidding, I know it's, but you take the date from the siege of Jerusalem in 29, whatever, or you go back into the when the and you see how these wars happen, and there's so many years from this war to that war to this war to that war, and you find these significant historical dates, and then they go, oh, and look at, I can overlay them. That's what Arnold Murray, he said, it's an overlay. You can take the dates of the sieges of Jerusalem in the Old Testament and lay them over the dates of the wars in modern times of Israel, 1948, 1967. And you can lay them over. And then there's another one coming in 1981, and that could be, oh, it didn't happen. And that's what happens over and over and over again with these predictive attempts. And I said, there aren't a lot of scriptures that I think are very... well, I mean, if you look at it, in Daniel, the prophecy is specific with regard to Messiah. From the coming of this to from the time of the going forth of the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem to Messiah shall be so long. And that all calculated out. I saw the story of a Russian Jewish man who was really wanted to understand why the Messiah hadn't come. And he went to Daniel and he found that he should have come in the 1st century. And that was when he for the first time, discovered the New Testament. And it was very, because he had no knowledge of it. It was, because he lived in a very insular community. And it's an interesting story. I'm not going to get into it, but he had a interesting testimony of the way his parents reacted, and they kind of thought he was going to be branded with crosses and stuff, because there's things that people tell, as far as in old times, they used to tell them, oh, if you become a Christian, you'll do this. Or like people would say that the Jews eat babies and whatever, crazy stuff. So even if you don't believe the signs are literal, you should know what the words are literally, at least. So you can, if you think you can line it up with something other than what it describes, well then, there you go. And I don't think it's all literal. I think at the 5th trumpet, it shifts to highly symbolic. It is partly symbolic. I could say that, you can go through a series of events and say, this is so close that it must be. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like, it's not every single little detail is literally true. But you can say, well, that represents something else. And that part is symbolic. There are, throughout history in the prophets, it's not, rarely do you have just pure symbology. The symbols always represent, and, hello? Okay. Or my ear just went to the ringing mode. I don't know why. Suddenly the world just became a little quieter. You ever get that? And then every once in a while it'll suddenly open up, and maybe that's just my own disease or something. I don't know. So anyways, let's read the 3rd trumpet. And the 3rd angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the 3rd part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. Now I already thought of the 2nd trumpet as some sort of meteor, a mountain burning with fire cast in the sea. It also might be that, well, in some ways, you can say, well, what isn't this something from the heavens? A great star from heaven burning? And people, of course, you get the people who are like science freaks, and they'll be like, stars can't fall. It's like, in the language of people in the 1st century, it sure can, because when you see you see a shooting star, it's a light in the sky, and that's all they knew stars to be, lights in the sky. And it would be really weird for Revelation to take a detour at this point to try to explain to 1st century people a 20th century understanding of what the stars are. And it would actually, weird stuff like that. I mean, people think the Bible was written to convince them. You know, and like it was written like, so they expect accurate scientific information to be in there. Like you know, I mean, this was written by God. I've gotten this argument from people. They say this was written by God, and therefore God should have like communicated to us a solid scientific understanding of the universe. That's not what it represents. It was inspired by God, mediated by first century people who, or even 6th century BC people, or 10th century BC people, depending on which part you're looking at. And so they're not gonna. That is not. They're being inspired in terms of the secrets of the universe, in terms of eternal life, of righteousness, of moral truth. It's not a. There's no reason to expect that sort of thing. So, a star falling from heaven, we may understand it to be a meteorite or an asteroid or whatever. Well, it would be a meteorite. So, let me have a drink of coffee. All right. And say, well, Paul, you said the second one, a meteorite. Third one, also a meteorite. But they're described as two different things. A mountain. And that's a good point. And it may be, it could be several things. Maybe the second is a landslide. I don't really like that, but maybe it's a massive... I remember them talking about a massive landslide being able to cause a major tsunami. Like a landslide into the sea. If a mountain were to slide off into the sea, it could cause... No, not could. It would cause, depending on how much material, it would cause a major tsunami on the other side, which would completely wreck. It would cause the things that, that we're talking about, the massive damage to ships and all that. So maybe it's something more like that. Or maybe it's just describing a different point of view on it. Meaning if you saw it close up, you might see it more as a mountain going into the sea than a great star from heaven. I don't know. It's not, like I said, it's not, the exact precise is not as important as knowing what it says. You should be able to talk about the seals. I mean, the seals or the trumpets, know what is in each. If you don't have a full understanding of Revelation and prophecy, the important thing is to know what's there. That's why I do my music stuff, is to help people put things into their mind. It's like if there are movies I watched when I was a kid over and over again because the world was a lot more limited, and we didn't have the satellites that people have today, and and so there are movies that I watched over and over again. I remember I saw 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, like many times. It's not my kids. I think I've seen it like 50 times, just as a kid. Or kids will have a video. Even today, I remember kids have a videotape or a DVD that they really like. Or now with the internet, you can still... My wife was remarking how kids, they don't seem to watch... It's not like because there's a huge variety available, they watch a huge variety. People tend to watch what they want to watch. They end up watching the same things over and over again. But no point to that, particularly, except to say that I knew every part of that movie. There's a part where he's singing with the seal, and the part where he sings a whale of a tale. On the, it's just embedded in my mind because as a kid I spent way too much time watching one movie. And Revelation that's the same for me. I've spent a lot of time just with the words, so I know what they all are. It doesn't necessarily mean I know what they all mean, but it does mean if I see events that could be interpreted to be revelation, I have a very firm understanding of what's in Revelation, and therefore I can apply that knowledge to the circumstances I find myself in. And people ask me, oh, could this be that? Or, I get asked questions from people, family members, friends, whatever, about things. And I can certainly speak with a lot of, I'm not going to say authority, but with a strong command of the information. Because, if you don't have a strong command of the information, you can run off on a tangent where it's like, you just don't realize that there's a scripture that actually makes that impossible. No, I don't think that's possible, because there's a scripture in where it says this, and I'm like, I think that rules out that thought. Okay. Because I'm going at a slow pace, but there's an important thing to be learned about prophecy is like, how do we interpret it? Because there's a lot of people running around making big mistakes all the time in prophecy, and no one ever holds them to account. But we can hold them to account at least by the fact that we do not listen to them. When someone makes a false prediction and they say, well, I think I've got a map here of the end times, and I've got dates plotted out for the coming 3 years. People were doing it a couple of years ago. They're always doing it. And, if they keep it up, of course, eventually they're going to be right. But that's not, that's like a broken clock is right twice a day, right? At least if it's, not digital. A broken clock is right. And so eventually, and if someone just keeps predicting, today's the day I'm going to die, eventually they're going to be right. Didn't make them a prophet. So the great star falls from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, fell upon the third part of the rivers, upon the fountains of water. So the first strikes the grass and the trees. The second, the sea and the ships and the creatures of the sea. Devastating. And then, there we go. And this one, on the fountains of waters, fresh waters, the rivers, the fountains, the wells, the well springs. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. I'm just gonna, let's look at what wormwood, what does it say? What is the definition? I know, and I'm going to address something people make a big deal about. 4 things. No. Absinthos, like absinthe. Wormwood, which is a poisonous, you don't even really, you can just from the context figure out what it is. It's some sort of embittering agent. The name of the star is called Wormwood. I remember back when I was a teenager, them saying on the prophecy shows, Wormwood, do you know what Chernobyl means in Russian? Like, what does that mean? It means wormwood. Oh. What does Fukushima mean in Japanese? Does that mean wormwood too? Isn't that the name of the... Am I wrong? Is that the name of the Japanese power plant that went... blew those rods into the sky a couple of years ago? The Chernobyl is, oh, wow. Is that an issue anymore? It is in the little tiny region around Chernobyl. Is this a world, had that poisoned a third part of the river? Is there any, like that, again, is it even true? You know what I mean? Does Chernobyl really mean wormwood in Russian? Is that true? I don't even know. I don't even care because it's obviously not part of the prophecy. But there are some people running around thinking like, that was the third trumpet. Like, what was that, 30 years ago, something? 25? No, it was at least 30, I think. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It's like these one-off things where it's like, I've got one word, and that's the thing. And now all nuclear stuff is it's a description of nuclear winter. That's not totally ridiculous an idea, honestly. That part about like it was like missiles and poisoning and radiation poisoning, but honestly, that might even be a bit much. I don't know, because the fourth trumpet is gonna, the third part of the sun and the third part of the moon, third part of the stars, they were darkened. I think that's what I think we're talking about, at least Wormwood. I mean, maybe that's something that lands. Maybe it's not, well, it's a great star, but it has an effect of poisoning fresh waters. And again, there can be a symbolic meaning behind it. Because again, water represents fresh water. Represents the stuff of life. Is essential for life. Many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Now, I remember you could say like, well, I remember Arnold Murray, my former teacher, and I pick on him because I don't have other former teachers. I have one former teacher. And after that, I was studying on my own. I didn't pick up with some other dude to make him my teacher. I didn't even really listen to anybody else because I was sort of fed up with teachers. And I just thought, one of the things Arnold Murray taught me that I went with was to study God's Word on your own, okay? And he was really down on commentaries, so I avoided commentaries. And, just avoided it. But one of the things he would say that I don't like, but that I'll bring up just because I know some people who study with me, used to study with him, he would say, like, the trumpets are deceptions. And I think I mentioned this last time, 2 days ago. And I'm like, that's such a, not that the trumpets are deceitful towards you, but the things that are in the trumpets represent, like, okay, a star comes from heaven, an angel, and he affects the sources of truth. I mean, this is never laid out like this for me. And men dying means they were deceived by this. Again, if that's all, well, an angel from heaven would definitely be a big sign. If an angel start coming out of heaven and claiming to do stuff and preaching gospels you have not heard, you're in the end times. Okay, that's sufficiently close enough to a star falling from heaven. Okay, and a mountain being cast in the sea. That could be like a great nation falling catastrophically. Or a great nation appearing catastrophically. I do think that kind of, like, whatever the trumpets are, they should be massive, catastrophic events that make you say, sit up and take notice and say, wait a second. I mean, it should not be something someone has to convince you over. I was saying that's one of the funniest things people do. Trying to convince other people of their prophetic interpretations. It's like, come along with me and try the poison. And I'll be comforted in your being poisoned with me with bad ideas. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to have people join me in my self-deceit and my conceit. Because I know what it means. Beware of such. Beware of all those that would lead you down that path. I don't think they're meant to be signs, and whatever happens, they will be clearly discernible to those who are of the Lord. If you are faithful to the Lord, and faithful to the Word, and mindful of the things which are written, it will be utterly clear. And it doesn't hurt to speculate a bit. I mean, what else am I doing sitting here? It's hard to teach it otherwise, except to teach some sort of methodological, approach, and then possibilities. So the waters are made bitter, and the fourth angel sounds. The third part of the sun was smitten, the third part of the moon, the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Everything's darker. And I think it's very interesting that, what do we see in the sixth seal? The moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth. Right? And then we see stars falling from heaven. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, which I presume means really black. So, is that the same thing as we see here? The sun being... This seems like not quite that. When Jesus comes, he always describes it, the sun shall not shine. Mark 13. Wait, I'm just going to get my bearings and just think of the word there. But in those days after the affliction, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And the stars of heaven shall fall. And the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. Similar. Very similar. And I do think, I suspect strongly that these events, because of what follows next in the fifth trumpet, what we see here is setting everyone up to receive what is about to come on the earth as the Messiah. But it is the false Messiah. The trumpets, these first four trumpets, bring in the false Messiah. That's what I think is a very likely interpretation. The seventh trumpet, at the seventh trump, the Lord comes. That's the last trump. There's only seven, and so that's the last one. People will try to say, oh, there's the trumpets, the rapture ahead of time. Just don't listen to them. It's flat out, don't listen to that. It's like when you're trying to, I don't know, it's just, I hate the rapture. You know what? I literally hate that doctrine. I hate it with a deep hatred. I don't hate people who believe it, but I hate the doctrine. Because, one, I want to be there. I want to be there in the Great Tribulation. As stupid as that is, and that is stupid. Don't be deceived. It is very stupid to want to live in those times. And that's something I've wanted my whole life. I wanted to see those days. And that's just stupid. It's like a lot of things. It's like, woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. His return is glorious, but like the suffering that's going to come ahead of that and all that, it's like, there's great suffering. There's a great, and many people are going to fall away from the faith. They're going to be deceived. They're going to go after Antichrist and become the great whore. And then they will meet the Lord with weeping and grinding. It's not nice. Nothing nice about it. It's a catastrophe. But honestly, it's just exposing the weakness that is already in the church. It's a catastrophe. We're not getting ready for eternal life. We're getting ready for eternal party. Because we haven't measured out where we're going or what we're supposed to be doing. It's like, I think about, like, I turn on the radio and, like, I never listen to Christian music, hardly ever. And when I do, I'm always like, it just sounds like a really, I don't know, I wanted to use a slang from my youth. It sounds like a really gay party. And I mean in the sense of just like, this is lame. This is really lame stuff here. But it sounds like a party. It's like a party I don't want to be at. Because it's so light and frivolous and empty. But that's I don't know. Maybe people like that music. I'm like, it's not constant celebration. It's not all the time. In that day that the Lord called to weeping and mourning and girding with sackcloth. But what do we see? Oh, behold, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, party hardy, until it comes and takes them all away. I hate the rapture. It contributes to so much frivolity. I believe it does. Certainly contributes. It's not going to deceive. I don't think like Arnold Murray that everyone who believes in the rapture is going to be deceived. It's just that it contributes to a lack of conscientiousness. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, it's like any kind of safety net like that is always going to have the same kind of effect. It's going to tend to diminish your capacity to diminish the thought that, like, I have to ready myself. Because it's sort of, and also with the rest of the things being taught, it sort of teaches you you're already ready. There's nothing too ready. There's nothing to give diligent heed to. No. So the day shining not, I think, is part of the setup. Because everything's going to be, all the boom, boom, boom. And then the darkness swirling. And like, this is when men's hearts failing them for fear. The sea and the waves roaring. The distress of nations with perplexity. These are things like in Luke that Jesus mentioned that I really like to point out. Everyone's going to be losing their mind at this point. The world is coming to an end. What does this all mean? You know what I mean? And, non-religious people are going to be freaking out because they're going to be like, the earth is toast. You know what I mean? It's toast. They're going to think, we've been worrying about global warming. We're going to have bigger problems. We're going to, you can't diminish the sun by a third. You understand the after effects of the things I'm describing would go on for years. A lot of people are going to know this and be freaking out. And I beheld and heard an angel flying in the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe! Woe! Woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound. If you thought the first 4 trumpets were bad, the signs that it's about to begin, guys. Everybody wake up. Here comes the end of the world. That's what it means. That's what they're saying. Like, these are the heralds of doom of the earth. When these things come about, here's what comes next. The big stuff. You want to talk about bad things happening to the world. Normally, that stuff, it's like the planet is going to be intercepted by rocks and ice and poisonous things from space that are going to be short of planet killers, but not short of man killers. We're going to see ourselves at the mercy of the universe. You know what I mean? We're going to see how fragile we truly are here on our little cozy planet. It's going to be exposed. How tenuous our existence is. Should we bow before the Creator? You're right, you should bow before the Creator. You are dancing on the head of the needle, man. Chapter 9. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any tree, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the... Let's read it. Let's just read the whole fifth trumpet, then we'll analyze it, okay? Because I'm going to make references to things at the end of this, at the beginning. I have to. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold. And their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women. And their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions. And there were stings in their tails. And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. One more is past. We don't need to read that part. We know there are 3. This star is an angel. This star, I believe, is Satan cast out of heaven. Which you don't see till chapter 12, but it's not a chronology. And we'll, what you get in Revelation is a series of motifs. Little shoebox dioramas. It's not a chronology from the beginning to end. I think anyone who studies it for any time understands that that's the case. There are chronological sequences within. Sorry. Should have had some salt or something this morning to break up the phlegm. It's winter time. How do I get to chapter 1 like that? What do I do? Click the reset button there. But the king over them, angel, his name is Abaddon, and it's a reference to something mentioned, destruction, in the word itself is used in Hebrew, and the word is used throughout the New Testament. Apollyon, well, not usually Apollyon, but it comes from a word Apollia, a very important word. For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of Apollia. Who is the son of Apollia? That's son of perdition. Apollia is the word. Greek. It's the root from which Apollyon is derived. It's like saying the son of destruction, who is destructo. Apollyon, the destroyer. And you can, it's here's Apollyon and Samael and Flubiel and Flubiel. Some people like to do the angelology. I don't get into that. To me, it's the enemy. It's Satan. It's the devil. And the form precisely it takes on the earth is not critical. It could take several forms. It could be supernatural from the heavens. It could be an alien. People, it's God. The Antichrist is going to be an alien. People always try to give me that. It's like, well, maybe, but it would be more convincing if he didn't come as like, I am E.T. That would deceive some people. But it's a lot more convincing to come and say, I'm Jesus. That's more along the lines. I think that's much more, because one, Christians expect Jesus. The atheists don't expect Jesus, but they would know him when he comes. You know what I mean? Western atheists know who Jesus is. In fact, just about everyone knows who Jesus is. If you say, I am Glubor from the planet Maxil, and I'm here to be your God. I mean, most people are going to know an alien is taking advantage of the fact that our planet just got rocked. Maybe they have something to do with this. I mean, I could see it going that way. I mean, okay, aliens. An angel is an alien. As far as it's an interdimensional being that I've never seen an angel. And the seven stars are the angels of the seven churches. The seven churches are so I mean, I understand why Wormwood could say, oh, this angel is Wormwood. I've even seen that. Absinthius and Apollonius and whatever. Okay. But I'm just saying, this one's definitely an angel. And angels being likened to stars is a symbolic thing, but the stars are not only angels. I mean, it can represent something heavenly. It can represent the things you see when it says the stars of heaven fall, it could be talking about angels coming down from heaven, okay? Bright lights, because they are like luminous beings that would appear from the sky. But here, what's interesting, they come from another place, the bottomless pit. Now, the bottomless pit. What is the bottomless pit? It's interesting because later on, trying to remember. It's funny because sometimes I remember Revelation in pieces. Actually, I always remember it in just pieces. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. That's the dragon. The dragon was cast out. The dragon was cast out, chapter 12. What does it say? Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, for he knows he has but a short time. So whatever his incursion takes, he's going to come into the world as he has not been in the world before. I believe that with, I want to say all my heart. It's not exactly that. It's more of like, that's just my strongest belief. Antichrist could be a man possessed by the devil. Antichrist could be something that calls itself an alien, but it's really the devil. Or a man who claims to be God, but he's really inhabited by the spirit of the devil. Or it could be the actual devil. And some people don't believe there is an actual devil. Well, I do. And people say, well, because he's confusing if you think about it. Satan is confusing because people a lot of times think, oh, Satan versus God, and there's this battle, but Satan is God's servant. Look at the book of Job, and how else can it be? God is the creator of everything, it's like, and he created Satan also. Now, people often say, what did God do? Take a perfectly good angel and corrupt him? And so, no. He created an angel that was corrupt. So, well, why would he do something like that? Well, he has his purposes, but it's not, it's not a tragedy. Like I said, of all the evil people that exist in the world, and the evil angels, if God did not create them, they would not exist. So it is he's doing them a favor by allowing them to exist. He's doing them a kindness. So, well, what about the good people? Well, the good people, all things work together for those that love God, who are called according to his purposes. It's all working for your good, for those he has called to life. And if he has not called you to life, eternal life, the life you're receiving is you may not have asked for it. It doesn't matter. It's still, something is better than nothing. To have this life is better than to not have any life at all. And some people will disagree and say, no, I think there's, and Jesus even said, it would be better for that man if he had never been born. And I've pointed out that's a figure of speech. We're saying it's worse than the worst thing ever. The worst thing ever is to never have been born. And we're saying if a man does this, then it would be better for him. It was actually Judas betraying Christ. It would be better for that man if he had not been born. But that is just like an idiom or a figure of speech saying basically it's worse than the worst possible thing. This is even worse than anything you can imagine. That's all. That's what it's saying. It's not saying that. It's not making a factual statement saying like, well, it's good not to be born. Because on many occasions in the scriptures, I think that it can be made the argument that what God does to us in bringing us into existence is a major act of grace. Life is not a curse. I think that confounding that idea, to think that death is a curse. Life is a gift. You start mixing that up, you know what I mean? Like, it's an important distinction. You don't take an exception like Judas and turn that into your rule. Because then I can start making arguments for abortion. Life is a curse. Abort your baby. You know what I mean? It says, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and people do. Well, you bring them into a life where they don't have enough money and they can't be rich. Why not just kill them, right? They're poor. Maybe they are missing a leg or something. I mean, who wants to live without a leg? Kill them. Life is a curse. Do you believe that? I hope not. So, once you start going down the life is a curse route, it's not, you gotta, when you have an idea, like, you gotta follow it to where does that go? All right. I was fine. I'm thinking, I'm like, I always find it, I want to apologize and explain, it's funny to have to explain to people sometimes that Jesus didn't mean what he said. But Jesus always meant, no, he didn't. And like Luke, make yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, and that they may be able to receive you into everlasting habitations. Look that one up. The parable of the bad steward who wasted his master's goods. I have on my website, oraclesofgod.org, I have a study in Luke, if you're interested in that parable. It's one of those, there's certain parables I think just are so badly misunderstood. People actually say, oh, well, yeah, go ahead and make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness. Because Jesus, those words actually came out of his mouth. And I've argued with people who said, no, you should, somehow we've got to implement this. I was like, it's clearly he's being sarcastic. I don't think Jesus would ever be sarcastic. Well, you're not thinking then. You need to think a little harder, because he was definitely being sarcastic about that. Maybe not exactly sarcastic, but facetious. I can't believe he would be like that. Then go ahead, defraud your boss to buy off friends and see if you don't end up in jail. I mean, you know what I mean? Go to work at a bank and skim money off the top. Make yourselves friends with it. And you think you think your boss, because in the parable his boss commends him, you're shrewd, because it was like the honor among thieves moment where he's like, you're a shrewd operator, right? But that's generally not what happens. That's the stuff of Hollywood. What really happens is you committed fraud, you go to jail. So let's just talk a little bit more about the bottomless pit. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. I was interested in bottomless pit, and I talked about everything else. I guess it's a good way to weed out people. People can be offended easily. Okay. The bottomless pit. That's from whence come these locusts. And this is going to be a subject for tomorrow, obviously. I've got to do over 10 more minutes. And I'm like, can I open this up in 10 minutes? Well, whatever. We'll talk about it again tomorrow. It's a good subject. All right, the bottomless pits. What could it be? I remember thinking, like, does the mountain falling into the sea open up? Because it means literally the pit of the abyss. In fact, I've said that for so many years, and it's been so long since I looked it up. I'm going to check that really fast here. No, that's my comment. All right. Oh, there you can see him going there. On. All right, that's weird. And there we go. Okay, we need chapter 9. I believe it is the pit of the abyss, abyssus or whatever, bottomless pit. It's the boundless. Well, it's abusos frere, a well, an abyssal well. A boundless, something that has no boundaries. Now, the things I know that have no boundaries are things like, like space. Like, we know the universe is not infinite, but we also don't know where the boundaries are, which is weird. I mean, I think that's weird. Like there's no edge of the universe exactly. Like galaxies have edges, but the universe is kind of, I mean, maybe someday we'll find out the bounds thereof. I don't know. And so, a well into the infinite. I guess I think of the well as like a lot of things. I guess I sort of apply my modern thinking of what things could be. I think of it as like an interdimensional portal into a dimension of of binding, or from, he's gonna be cast out of heaven, and he brings forth this army of locusts. This is highly symbolic. There's something literally going on, which I think literally Satan is arriving on earth with his angel army to deceive mankind into believing he is God. And this is following on the heels. I kind of lost the thread of everything I was saying about the trumpets, which is sad because it was actually, I was really into it. But time, I think I might do an extra study this weekend, or maybe one of these days, just to make up. I hate missing. But they're going to arrive for the express purpose of deceiving the world, and for convincing them that he is Christ. That's my take on it. And then the symbolic representations that we read here, teeth as the teeth of lions, hair as the hair of women, faces as the face of men. All that stuff is pretty easy to decode. It's not a lot of, I don't think it's some heavy symbolic thought. I mean, you could take, I've had people say, well, take this literally too. Okay, well then that's easy. When you get something, I mean, the first 4 trumpets, if you thought that was wild, having weird supernatural animals coming out of pits, do I think we will see the pit? No. I think that part is like something we're not going to be privy to. What we will see is Satan and his angels. The devil is cast out with his angels, chapter 12. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Let me know my exact order. His angels are cast out with him. And I believe that is what this is portraying in the trumpets. The world, and what it's saying is, here, the overall message, the first 4 trumpets, the world's going to seem falling apart, and everyone's going to be freaking out. And what comes next is evil. That's what this fifth trumpet is saying. There's going to be something coming on the earth, an invasion. And they're not behaving like normal locusts eating the grass. These invaders are interested in devouring men. Okay? It is, and in fact, that's fifth trumpet. What is it? It's an invasion. The earth is going to be knocked for a loop. I think the first four trumpets, that's what that represents, and the sun and the moon will be darkened, and then it's going to be invaded. And I see why people would think aliens. That makes sense. And the fact that it comes from the pit of the abyss, the abyssal pit, it doesn't come from Earth. It describes later on the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. In fact, I just want to go there for a second. Is that? Yes, that's chapter 11. When it talks about the two witnesses being slain, they are slain by the beast that descendeth out of the bottomless pit. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and overcome them and kill them. That's very important to understand that you see the two beasts. There's a beast coming up out of the sea, a beast coming up out of the earth in chapter 13. One comes out of the sea, one comes out of the earth. Interesting. And then this one comes out of the bottomless pit. Is it a separate beast? Are they all one beast? Or is it describing just, but I'll say this one thing. This beast does not arise out of men. It comes out of the bottomless pit. So even if it is, let's say, men being possessed, that would be maybe the way you'd have to go. You could say this is angels and demons coming out of the bottomless pit to possess men. Then it is the spiritual aspect of the other beasts, perhaps. So, I can still get to it's men. You know what I mean? But its origin is not of men. At the bottom of it is the bottomless pit. Is the angel of the bottomless pit, who is the destroyer, who is, that they should, I quoted before 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where it says, that man of sin, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself. That doesn't mean reflexively. Like, I'm going to show myself what I can do. It means showing yourself, making a show. I'm going to show myself. Oh, here I am. Look at here I am. I'm God is what it is. It's like he's showing himself to the people that he is God. The man of sin. And you know what holds him back? And in Revelation, apparently that is where he's currently in heaven. He's going to be unleashed on the earth. He's going to be given the key. Maybe what's holding back is he doesn't have the key of the bottomless pit. He can't come. Interesting, and of course, what do you say about all, this is all, I suppose you could regard it as frightening. But they are only sent to hurt the men which have not the seal of God on their foreheads. And at this time, I teeter between two thoughts, whether they will be, when it says hurt and torment, this could be like, if the devil's going to make a claim to be God, he can't just come and be friendly about it. What he's going to do, and I get this also from Isaiah chapter 14, where it talks about how the king of Babylon, and, when it talks about his downfall, one of the things that are said to him is that you have destroyed your land and slain your people. And the seed of evildoers will never have renown. When Satan comes, the first thing he might do is turn on all his loyal subjects. All the people that, like, I'm a Satanist and I don't believe in Jesus. He might come and just start off just torturing those people. Just so we understand. Just because he's after the big prize, which is the whore. He wants to seduce all the good Christian folks who don't deserve, or who are not worthy of the Lord Jesus Christ. None of us are worthy of Christ, get that. But we must walk worthy if we truly have faith. As I said to people, faith, the idea of faith alone is ridiculous. It's oxymoronic. Faith is not alone. It never is. Faith makes you do things. If it doesn't make you do anything, if you just literally just have faith and nothing else, well, let's say this. If you have faith in time, faith will work things. If you have faith in nothing else, excluding also time, then faith alone can save you. Because, well, with a confession or circumstances, I always reference the thief on the cross, and I've even been, I want to say made fun of, not exactly made fun of, but I guess I do it so often that it's notable. But because you got to deal with the exceptions, but the exceptions don't prove the rule. If you have time and faith, that's going to add up to something. And I will stand against anyone in a debate on that subject. If somebody, you have faith and nothing else, your faith is dead. That's what the definition of dead faith is. Faith plus time and no increase. I got parables for that. The one who had the 1 talent, the man who showed up without a wedding garment, the seed that fell among thorns, the seed that fell on the path, the seed that fell by the wayside, that was the path, wayside, thorns, and among stony ground. Those 3 kinds of seed. All kinds of bad outcomes come from not producing fruit. And this is throughout the Bible, the New Testament especially. It's so much that it annoys me. Anyways, before we go, I want to remind you to subscribe to Line by Line Bible Studies. Click the like button. Click the little bell so you receive notifications. And etc. Okay, if you have questions, there are a number of ways we can deal with that. You can send them to questions@oraclesofgod.org. All these things are linked in the description below. And sorry here. And then also of course you can leave a comment in the live chat, though that's easy to miss on my part, so sometimes I miss that. But of course you can leave it in the comments section, and then even if it's a week or months later, or even years potentially, I will try to go back and answer it if you have a question on a particular study. So anyways, I want to thank you for joining me in the study. I look forward to studying with you again tomorrow, since tomorrow's Friday, as long as I still have power and stuff. I would never just blow off a study. So if you ever see it waiting, it goes on longer than 15 minutes. Let's say it goes on longer than half. I've overslept for 15 minutes, but usually I run down and I'll put a message in like I'm up. I usually don't oversleep. But anyways, let's just get out of here.